life just is not a walk in red roses. It's just not perfect. It's not like I wake up today. Today I know my team is going to be beautiful. What I realized is that it works in an ecosystem. Yes, I'm a disruptor of pattern. Like, I'm not here to cause problems, disagreements. I'm actually here to go, how can we identify it and then find a way in which we can facilitate the change that we want to see?
For those who don't know who Kiri Marie is, who is she?
I really have been obsessed with patterns all my life and connecting them with pathways to actually get the best results we can.
If you were to give that one piece of advice, what would that key be?
Yeah.
Without further ado, it's so beautiful to have you here, Kiri Marie, on Case the Queen. Well, when you hear of Transformation 2025, what comes to you?
I just think of all the years that I've existed on this earth, and that's basically my whole journey is transformation, right? Like, it's from the moment I was born to where I am today, and I would always want it to be like that, because one of the things that I love is just learning, and I think part of transformation is the ability to keep learning.
Yes. And we're going to dive into more what you do. But for those who don't know who Kiri Marie is, who is she? And what is your story?
That's a great question. I guess the best way to describe is I'm someone that there is no space in which we cannot go. I love the complex to make it simple. And I really have been obsessed with patterns all my life and connecting them with pathways to actually get the best results we can. Like, I am like, if you tell me we can't do this, I want to go back to that drawing board and I want to figure out what are the pathways to get us that answer that you want right now. So I do that a lot in looking at new approaches in leadership and getting different results for the long term.
Let's talk more about leadership. You know, I'm only recently building my team. I know that means a level of like upskilling as a leader, but what does leadership mean to you and how do you like teach that to people?
Yeah, I think here's the thing that I think about leadership. I never wanted to be going down and into the arena of leadership. I thought it was boring. I thought it was like real old school, and a lot of leadership tends to be and keeps being that way. One of the things that I have learnt around leadership is that what you don't love, maybe it's time for you to get in there and change to what you love and know and want to see. And I think that's where I've really gone down rabbit holes to figure out what is leadership now? Where is it heading? And do I like that? Do I want to be a part of that? Or do I need to actually figure out how can we change where leadership is going? And so in that way, I really went down a rabbit hole, figured out that, hey, if I keep doing the old approach of leadership, I don't want to be a part of it. It's not heading. I don't know about you, but I don't love where a lot of leadership is going across the globe right now. And I wanted to see things different. So I realized, let's figure out what leadership insights can be. And then I went down, what if leaders could make smarter decisions? And actually knew what they were going to make a decision around and what that result was actually going to bring. Would that change where leadership is going? And that's where I got fascinated.
So you mentioned the old way of leadership.
Yeah.
Curious what that, like examples of that would be. And then you said leadership insight.
Yeah. Yeah. So good pick up on that one, because the old leadership, I think was very much the proven models, the proven principles, the steps. And with proven comes very linear. In other words, we do one thing, we join it to the next, that goes to the next. And that is the only way that it's done and the best way it's done. I do not believe in a forever changing landscape that is actually the real answer. I think if we continue to try building that out, we're going to continue to see problems that we're seeing right now in leadership. whether it's in your business, company, or organization, right? And so I believe that we have to learn how to connect pathways, know what the pattern is that we're dealing with, recognize what those gaps are, and then go, what are pathways that we need to now connect this to within an ecosystem? And that's the new approach. Meaning, what if humans, that's you and I, were a little like use the smarts that we've got. I always believe everyone's got smarts. They don't always know how to use them, but but like, what if you were able to use your smarts to actually get a return on the decision you're making, your ROD? What would that need to look like, and how could we do that more effectively? And I believe that's what we have to learn to do well and at speed and at capacity right now.
So I love the return of decision. What does that look like?
Yeah, so just let's think about that even in a practical way, right? Like, think of it so easy. A return on a decision is, does this decision I'm about to make going to add to the human race, or add, in your case, it might be building out the business that you're doing, building out more reach on a podcast? Is this going to add value, or is this going to take away value? And of course, we want to be doing decisions that are going to add value. And when we actually track why we're making a decision, we actually realize that maybe we should stop doing some of those things. It's not creating the pattern that we want, and we need to do more of this over here.
I love this. My brain's going wild. Obviously, obviously leadership to me means delegating, outsourcing, learning new skill set, being in my zone of genius, taking let go of control. But you talk about pathways. Is that more around the human intelligence? Because my brain's just like if you were to look at me.
It's a combination, right? Like, you think of it, what has happened? And again, this is the old approach. We tend to go, oh, here's a great example, just an easy example. I remember people used to say, you're such a disruptor. And I was like, oh, I hate that. That's a horrible word. I don't want to be disrupting, because I thought of disruption as rebel, as causing problems, right? We need to learn to realize that when we communicate a word, that we don't necessarily know what that means or the lens in which people are using it. So when it comes to something like this, it's like, what if we use different lenses to start asking different questions? And so for leadership, it's like, what is it that you're building out? Are you building out a business, a company? Sure. The old way was, when we build out a business, we have teams, we have a vision, we have a mission, whatever it is, we have KPIs. Here's what I know that is wrong with that way of building out things, is that it's great when it all works, and it really sucks when it doesn't work. And what I mean is, I don't know about you, but life just is not a walk in red roses. It's just not perfect. It's not like I wake up today. Today I know my team is going to be beautiful, amazing, get the results I want, that my numbers are just going to do all the perfect things that I always desire. I don't know about you. It doesn't work like that for me. What I realized is that it works in an ecosystem. Okay. I know you know about fitness. So when you're fit, healthy, and looking after you as a person, what does that do on the other side? It helps you to be more productive. It helps you to show up with an energy that people are drawn to, and it connects you to people. So by the way, you're probably going to get more sales because you've got that energy with you. And it's going to create this opportunity for you to be able to take on things that maybe someone who is not feeling fit, energetic, full of life is not being able to do. This is where we're building an ecosystem. One thing has an effect on another thing, and by the way, changes our decisions we make. We are not linear. We are not just built of, hey, we set this and this is how we do it. We have to know how to have flow within the pathways of our ecosystem. And so that's where I look at, going back to disruption. Yes, I'm a disruptor of patterns, but I actually don't cause, like, I'm not here to cause problems and disagreements. I'm actually here to go, How can we identify it and then find a way in which we can facilitate the change that we want to see? It's a different way.
This is so beautiful. I love that you use fitness, and shout out for you doing your comp soon, by the way.
Thank you. Week 2 of my class, so we're good. We're good right now.
If someone was to understand from a framework perspective, right? Because I think it's like it's a lot of the internal stuff. It could even be like, okay, knowing that everything inwards can be what's happening in our external reality, essentially, right?
Yeah.
From your language, what I love is you're bringing in leadership insight. You're looking at rebuilding people's ecosystem. So if I was to go, Kiri Marie, what's my ecosystem look like from the beginning? Like, how would you build the new way for me?
How often have you said, I spent my whole life studying, I've been to school my whole life, and I've actually learned nothing that teaches me the tools and strategies to build a successful business in the outside world. You've probably spent thousands of dollars on courses, or you've heard fake news from business gurus. Well, I'm here to give this incredible news to everyone here right now that this is Queen Stream University. Get out of debt and actually start making money in the online space, knowing and having the foundations to build a successful business. Now, I'm talking because I have gone through the trenches. I have been a fitness coach, built my online business as a pro athlete, and now I am a business coach. You'll go from having absolutely no idea what your business is through, in the 8 weeks, learn the foundations of knowing what your purpose is, your vision and mission, and also understanding your business values with the execution to know what that business is. You'll also learn branding, social media, content strategy, marketing, and more importantly, how to sell. With Queenstream University, it'll cut out the bullshit and remove all the fluff and get you working specifically on your business so you can execute this in 8 weeks to get ready to launch. I wanted you to have something where you get to access something straight away, where you get to fast track your growth, as well as remove any doubt, any overwhelming sensation or stress, or the question that everyone seems to ask, where do I begin? With Queenstream University, you'll be able to build wealth, freedom, and at the end of the day, be an entrepreneur and be able to say, I have finally built my own thing, my own business. And I've stopped making money for someone else, and I'm now making money for my own empire. Queenstream University.
Okay, so let's go right back to a simple. Remember how I said ROD, which is a return on decision?
Yeah.
If we just even went there and said, wonder what your return on your decisions are at this moment, at this time, as your truths right now, because that's what we get to work with, right? And so let's have a look at that. Here's a little framework anyone who's listening can use and is so helpful with clients. And I use, by the way, all the time. Do you want to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
Okay, cool. So here's the first one. It's a drainer. What in your world is a drainer? Those things that you need to eliminate right now. Stop. Do not go past go. Yep. Do not collect $200. Let's just get rid of that in our world. Right. Okay, cool. So here's the thing. Sometimes we cannot just get rid of it today, right this second, but we need to, and we know we need to. So we call that a strainer. It's a strainer because it's something that is putting strain on our ecosystem, but it's something that we either, by the way, turn into a drainer, in other words, eliminate it. So maybe that's because you're not meant to do systems and someone else is meant to be focused in on there. So what would be the next action to do? Oh, what is it that I do? How do I do it? And who do I need to get in there, right? That becomes easy decisions to make. Great. And if I did that, what does that become? The third thing. The third thing. My favorite, the no-brainer. What do we want in life? All the time we want no-brainers.
Yes.
Right? So if you've got a return on your decision, is it a drainer? Is it a strainer? Or is it a no-brainer? A no-brainer you want more of. You want to keep moving your strainers to no-brainers. Or if that's not what you're meant to do, then you go, hey, this strainer has got to be a drainer and get rid of that.
So I'm looking at my, let me make sure I got the right words. Drainer, strainer, no-brainer. My no-brainer for me is spending time with people like yourself, doing podcasts, speaking on stage. Like my zone of genius has always been like, the stage. I love coaching as well, and I love building businesses, right? A drainer, as we spoke about just before this podcast started, just to give everyone context, I was like, sorry, babes. Technology. My assistant and Jordan, and then, you're like, it's all good. So would that be a drainer? And then I would need to find someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So then I would get someone to take my drainer to turn it into a strainer. It will still be straining because it's not going to be an instant fix. And in that sort of process, it becomes a no-brainer because I'm more in my zone of genius.
Correct. And that's what you always want to get. You think of an ecosystem, by the way, people have to realize this. And again, in the fitness world, we know this. Tension on the muscle helps us to create more muscle. Too much tension on that muscle creates damage or a injury. That is not good, right? Same thing if you're building out an ecosystem in, say, what you're talking about in your business, then part of that is making sure that we've got strainers there that are helping us to stretch our muscle, to build us stronger, build resilience, whether it's in leadership, build a team that is stronger, whether it's you want to change what's happening in culture, then role model it from the front. Do what you want, build that out, make it more no-brainers. What it happens is also that you start focusing in on aiming towards a no-brainer, not a strainer or not a drainer. And the problem when we are in drainer land or strainer land or whatever you want to call it, it's literally that our focus becomes so focused in on that's all we can see. And then our ecosystem has a real strain. It's not healthy. Whereas if you're thinking towards creating pathways towards no-brainers, guess where our head goes? Guess where our thinking goes? Guess where our words go? Guess who we start attracting?
This is so beautiful. So let's just say I'm now in no-brainer land and you're now coming to me and you're like, Leadership Insight, here's what I'm going to help you now build the next stepping stone or the next layer of growth. And I guess that's what we're here for, right? To be of service, to be in our zone of genius, to explain it to someone else, when they start to understand human intelligence and being in that no-brainer land. I'm hoping this question makes sense. What would you then be teaching them from a leadership?
So I always think that there's levels in which we sometimes in my world of human intelligence and exercising the muscle of human intelligence. So basically what I'm saying there is smart humans making smarter decisions. It is really interesting when we look at how we make decisions, how we measure that, and then the effectiveness of that decision and knowing what to do when we know how to use that data, right? And it actually really helps you to speed things up or to slow things down if need be, or to have more capacity or to realize what capacity you need to be able to achieve that bigger play that many want to do, but think of it only over there as when I get to that point, maybe one day that's good for you, but it's not good for me. I couldn't do that, whatever, right? Like it eliminates all of that when you realize that there's always an answer. Impossible is just not a word in human intelligence, I believe, because there's always a way we can change a pattern. I mean, a great example of this is one of my heroes, and that is my son. He was born with half his brain damage, speckles all on the other side of him. What I was fascinated with him was that basically they said to me, he's not going to make it past being born, and he's definitely not going to be able to speak. Why? Because the bit that it was able to be made in his brain to speak had been all brain damaged and was wired wrong. What I knew was true, if my work with patterns and rewiring was a truth, was that we could find other pathways for him to wire his brain to. Guess what? to this day, sometimes I want him to shut up because he talks so much.
That's amazing.
But I'm so inspired by him because he has literally found the other pathways to wire that brain too. That's what's so fascinating when we use our smarts and the data that we have to then find other pathways. Going back to your original question of, yes, we're all in that no-brainer. By the way, I'm never all in the no-brainer. There's strainers in there all the time. Like, I'm like, that is the dream, I guess. But in some ways, I like the strainer because I'm not afraid of failing, and I'm not afraid of seeing where I'm not good, because I actually think that's the learning ground, and that helps me build more muscle to be able to do what I need to do. So it's actually become quite cool living between the strainer and the no-brainer. I hate the drainers. That I do not do. But strainers to no-brainers, I'm pretty good. Exactly. But here's the thing. What I love about when if I think of leadership, there's kind of like a process in which those that come in my world are either emerging. In other words, the curious want to know more, but they might need to learn the language. They might need to learn what does this even look like, right? And then I always think there's the collective, those that are already doing amazing things and like have got some things, but could do it more effectively just to be able to do life and have maybe even just a healthy ecosystem. And then those that want to play big, there's that level. And I call that legacy leadership, where those that want to live their legacy and leave a legacy that is way beyond their own little ecosystem, but a part of the global ecosystem. How do you do that? How do you play that? And that's where I'd be getting someone like you going, how do we plan that space more? What does that need to look like? And how do I now in my everyday start moving towards that?
Kiri Marie, when I hear all of that, right, I had a vision not even a few weeks ago, it comes up around being able to be of service and have a talk show to be of impact globally, right? And at that point, I was like, oh, is that selfish? And it was more around like building that space as a vision, not for myself, but to help entrepreneurs out there who have been told they were, not good enough, had to place more. And that's why my message has always been big dick energy, right? And hearing everything you're saying and everything about leadership, it's beautiful because there's that 1%ers. There's those 1%ers that want to make that impact. So I want to get to know more around like what's the impact you're creating. Like you've spoken about leadership insight, you've spoken about our return of decision, and also neuropathways, human intelligence. What is the thing that you're creating right now? Why do people come to you?
I laugh when you say that because there's so many pieces to the ecosystem. That's why it's an ecosystem, and I love it because it keeps me. But it keeps me from getting bored. And, I recognize a lot of my daughter right now. She just keeps going, I'm so bored. I'm so bored. And, I think there's quite a lot in my world that keeps me from getting to that bored stage because I love playing that bigger play and moving lots of pieces. And I think one of the things that I have realized, if we go back to leadership insights as a new approach, again, what I'm saying in that one is for leadership insights going, this is a truth at the time that we have, that I say this is my truth in leadership right now. What does that mean? It means that I know that a variable could come along, a change in the landscape could happen. I might have more data that changes what I think about this at a further space, but at this time, this is true and this is it. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is creating human experiments that are literally helping us to go, hey, this is what we're seeing, but if we do this, what's the effect of that? How could that help us be better leaders? How could that help us have more speed in the decisions that we're making, be more effective, right? We talk about in human intelligence around the valid pathway or the velocity pathway. The valid pathway, lots of people know all about EI, so emotional intelligence, right? When I've got this awareness around the decision I'm making and what I'm doing and how I do that, great. what a lot of people don't do, and I believe in human intelligence, if you want to know the velocity pathway, it's around EI, which is effective intelligence. Boy, do I know, and I am studying this in so many ways, and what I'm doing in the research that I'm doing and what I'm creating with human experiments, myself being one of them, is that I can have emotional intelligence, but if I can use what I've got, knowing that's a truth as data right now, and I can use that and be more effective, the results and the speed and the capacity in which I have is like scales higher than most people I know. And what I love about that is if you want to stand out and play at a bigger level, that's the stuff that will get you there. So human experience, we're doing the 1% shift movement. We're saying that if you do your 1% shift, I do my 1% shift. If we actually, and there was 1 billion people doing their 1% shift, would that shift and the dial? In other words, if you were making a decision that was adding to the human race and that was your 1% shift, I was doing that, would that change what's happening across the globe? I believe it would. Yeah. And part of that is I'm trying to role model not just what I'm saying, but why this is important. And because there's not the proven method, there's not the proven models to this, I have to role model it through human experiments. So a lot of my initiatives right now are things like that. I mean, I still do. And this year is the first year I've come back to doing live events, so human intelligent conversations. So it's around a particular topic, navigating. I don't know about you, but I see a lot of people not being able to facilitate conversations. And then when they do go through it, what do we even do with that? How do we see change from that rather than just words? And that was a lovely conversation. Great. How could we actually see change from that? So that's that. And then the Global Human Intelligence Forum, which is in October, where I am doing my first bringing people together, not online, but as a face-to-face event. So I'm very nervous about doing that one, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you've gone from human intelligence to effective intelligence to global intelligence, and now you're doing something in person. So I'm like, tell me. This is
awesome. So many. Yeah, I do jump from things. I move from things, but I do try to keep. I think this is the new approach: is the connector pieces. We have often, if we go back to the linear thing, we go this piece to the next. We have to learn to go down rabbit holes, bring them all, and then bring them all together. So the Global Human Intelligence Forum is literally just a forum where I want to bring leaders across the globe together, and some of the stuff that we've talked about today will be in that room, just listening to some, myself included, but other speakers. And I always, so even I've done this online. I haven't done it as a face-to-face event. So it's my first Global Human Intelligence Forum as a face-to-face event. But what I love about the last one was, when you have these conversations, and they're great, but I get these amazing conversations where we go so deep that most people don't get to hear those conversations. I have no fear of asking questions, and so I do that. And, if you want to really tough conversation that we had was during the time when it was huge with the whole Black Lives Matters, all that kind of conversation, diversity, you name it, at the table. And I did a huge conversation around that. Got my mate who identifies as American first of African descent. He spoke, and then I asked him every question that everyone would want to ask. And then we had open forum. That's the conversations that I think in leadership we need to have, and we need to have safe spaces where we learn to disagree with others in the room, but that's actually okay, and that's how we learn.
Beautiful kings and queens, are you right now in a space where you're ready to take action and build your business, yet you struggle where to begin? You're feeling stuck and overwhelmed with all the things you need to do when it comes to building a business. build the business of your dreams in the online space and be in the arena of all the incredible, great humans out there that are building 7 to 8 figure businesses. Now, the foundations that I truly believe in that you are going to learn through this membership is sales, marketing, content creation, social media, money mindset, and of course, branding. Now, all of this will be accessible for you to be learning what is currently hot right now in the market and how you can create your own business and build a successful business in the online space. All you have to do right now is DM Empire in my Instagram or email myself and my team, and we will get the ball rolling so you can have your empire and start making moves in the online space.
It's basically like what I'm understanding too. It's like, it's not just about having the conversations and then it's be gone with it. It's actually going, okay, here's amazing 1%ers coming together globally in person, addressing real shit.
Yes.
And they're the types of people, it could be in every element of whatever space they are, and making a movement, a change, a ripple effect, because you're talking about pathways and patterns and interruptions. And
so
all the
in the last one, we had people. I actually had my son, so the one that I said is my hero. He was on a panel for youth and speaking on that. And I had, the health, and then I had, like the medical and health and all that sort of having conversations around that. And then I chose particular global leaders, often not seen and heard by many, but unless you're in their sector, who do phenomenal things but have very different thinking to why they do it, how they do it, and the outcome they've got. Because, again, we don't learn unless we ask different questions. We're not willing to take on new ways unless we see it and it's role modeled in front of us. We don't even get curious for that. So I want it to be a place that we can become more curious, but not just be curious, but I always want to see macro change, and it happens in the micro shifts.
Kiri Marie, I want to know, because obviously that beautiful story about your son, you said you're doing human experiment on yourself, or have. Tell me more about what you've done.
Yeah, so over 16 years ago, I ended up in a wheelchair, told I'd never walk again. And so it's been a very full-on journey in my world. And part of that is you can live in the old story, or you can go, how can we create what and where you need to be, and what does that need to look like? And I felt like, I had this massive crossroad where I had a choice. Could I do my big mission in life by sitting in bed, not being able to move? And the answer was yes, but to the same capacity, no, was the answer to that. And then I was like, okay, I always tell my kids, you can do and be anything you dream of. Was I role modeling that? No, not really, because I was saying there was limitations to this. And then the third piece of it was, if I stay there, would that be fill me with joy? Would that be what I was meant to be like for the rest of my life? And had I given up on the fact that maybe there was another pathway to this? And I realized, yes, if I stayed there, that was going to happen. So I began this journey, and it's been a huge journey to right now. And where I 2 years ago took on a coach, because my brain was still, I'd lost limbs, and they weren't talking to each other, and my brain wasn't talking to my limbs that I'd lost, my left leg, my right arm. And so the only thing I knew from my fitness years was the way that bodybuilding teaches mind-body connection. And so I rang up 2 coaches, and the first one was like, basically looked at me and said, sweetheart, you don't really look like a bodybuilder. He was right. He was totally right. But,
say that.
Well, because we have so much biases, and we go, that doesn't look like that kind of person, or this doesn't look like what you should be doing. And I was just like, yeah, but if I'm called to do what I'm called to do, this is not going to be the body I need to do it in. And so then I took on another coach, and I just said to him, hey, if we were to just do what a bodybuilder does to get on stage to do a competition, I don't want to do a competition. I just want to do the process. Would you take me on? And he said, he did a thing that was so good around coaching. And he just said, so Kiri Marie, what would you want? This is what I do, but what would you want out of this? And I do not know. I do not know what overcame me in that second. But I said, if you could make me look like J-Lo, I'd be okay. And that was literally my answer. And anyway, he laughed and he said, not only can I make you look like J-Lo, I can make you look better. And I said, sign me up. Where do I sign that? And so part of me doing this, and then we were 6 months into it. It was such a transformation. You talk about transformations. It was such a transformation that at 6 months, he said, you know how we're pretending? I'd really like you to go into a comp. And so we've gone through this whole journey. I didn't want to do it. I was so certain I wasn't going to do it. And that was one of the reasons that I said I better say yes, because it was things from my past that has held me back over time, like being judged. You're going to be judged on stage. There was always consequences when I was judged when I did things wrong. I don't ever want that holding me back in what I'm doing going forward. You talk about old story, new story. I didn't want my old story in a wheelchair. I was told I'd never walk. I want to go from wheelchair to stage and then stage to whatever that is next, right? And then the third piece is, if I talk about the 1% shift and these 1%ers doing this, amazing work across the globe, I need a role model that. And this is everything I'm doing in my journey is what I believe is how we exercise the muscle of human intelligence. So part of that is me role modeling that. I'm the first experiment on the front end that people can see in our work right now.
I can't wait to witness that at your show. I'm going to be coming. I hope you know that. And I guess
devastating.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm so scared. I'm literally petrified about the whole process.
But you know what? That's why you're doing it too, and what a beautiful message around human you being the experiment for the human intelligence, right? And you're then going to be bringing your superpower, your zone of genius, which is teaching that on this one movement piece, which is in October. Yeah. So if people wanted to be a part of that, how can we start being more in the world?
At this moment, the best way is anywhere on social media. But I mean, if people want direct contact, just go to kirimarie.com and I'm there. But I'm on all socials, and there's plenty of videos out of me rambling on about my journey and the learnings. I just do it in a way that hopefully helps, as I'm learning things, maybe it can help, cement some of the other things that I do to help me get through those moments. Because there are definitely moments during this journey. And, I just want to say before I go is no, I don't know. It's interesting because when we look at decisions and when we look at where we want to go and you think about the whole transformation journey, right? There's a starting point, there's pieces along that journey, and then we're trying to go somewhere to get that transformation happening. And I just saw very much a few weeks ago the importance of knowing what you're tracking, where you're going, and what that looks like for you. So I went and got a DEXA scan, which, how would you explain a DEXA scan for someone that doesn't know what that is?
Yeah, it's measuring your whole specific body fat percentage, right? It's everything.
Correct.
It's not just color pills. It's you go into this whole
bone density. Yes. It's everything about it, right? So here's just a little perspective. When I went the very first time was when I was having disastrous things happening to my body. So I was very large compared. Then I went last time, it was at the pre-cut that we had chosen to do, but then we turned around and went into a body build. So my last DEXA, I was quite light on it, but it wasn't sustainable, right?
Yeah.
This one was at the end of a build. So you've eaten more, you've built on more muscle, you've got more fat on. And he was devastated at my results, like devastated. And I was like, oh no, I've made a mess. This is bad. What have I been doing? Why am I even doing this? You know, like in going down this rabbit hole. And what I realized was he was right because he was tracking from the last time I was there.
Yeah.
Was I heavier? Yes. My coach said to me that, Kiri, you're right where we thought you'd be. You're right where I want you to be after being in a build. Right?
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
And I just think we've got to watch out. Whatever the transformation is, know what you're tracking, know what you're measuring, know what is your journey, and know that there's always others around us, right? Who
100%.
are doing things, looking at things differently, and it's okay. Just know who you are.
And I just want to really emphasize how amazing Kiri is. I've been so grateful to be in her world, have dinner with her. And so anyone that's listening and you really want to have really that next level of looking at your ecosystem, working on leadership from another lens, not old school lens,
Yeah,
but
that's
also
right.
intelligence, where she can just unpack and help you build the right foundation so that you're making decisions that are in your no-brainer. Please make sure you do reach out to this incredible woman. I've been, as I said, so fortunate enough to have her in my world and be on this podcast. So I have one more question to ask you, gorgeous girl. It's the last question that I ask every listener, every guest. And that is, if you were to give that one piece of advice, that one key that's going to open the keys to their queendom, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah. My thing right now is have a presence. And I know that's weird, but I really believe that when you've got certainty, when you know who you are, what you're leading, how you lead, how you role model, your genius zone, there's a presence about you. You don't even have to say anything. Yeah. You don't have to be the loudest shouting in the room. You don't have to be rude to other people. You can walk in that room, show up, and people will be drawn to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I really love that so much. It really hits home. Thank you so much, Kiri, for being on Keys to the Queendom for the season of transformation, which is so perfect for what you're going through, what you're about to achieve, what you're about to be building and growing in your empire. And everyone else, this is Tamara Meyer, your host, and I cannot wait to see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
I'm there for playing big today with authenticity, because here is the thing. It's not about being perfect on stage, perfectly put together, which is important, yes. It's about being who you are. What if right now, because of today, in a year's time, you could look back and go, I did that scary thing. And that's a year from now where you went and made that decision. I'm going all in, committed to doing the work. I'm committed because this is so much more than me. It's not about me anymore.